Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cozy Cat Press's podcast. My name is Tina, and this week I had a conversation with Jennifer Vido. Jen is the author of Murder by the Minutes, published in 2015 by Cozy Cat Press, and the creator of the book review blog Jen's Jewels. So let's jump into our conversation. Can you introduce yourself and tell me about your literary and writing background?
Well, thank you for having me today. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about my literary career. My name is Jennifer Vido, and I am a published author. I am a columnist, and I'm also a book blogger. I am best known for my Jen's Jewels author interview column on freshfiction.com. My literary background is I started my literary career. I have to say it was probably launched after my appearance on Live with Regis and Kelly. I was a guest on Kelly's Reading with Ripa book club, along with New York Times bestselling author Meg Cabot. So once I was on there, doors started to open for me. And before I knew it, I was a published author. I write the Piper O'Donnell Social Light Mystery Series.
That's so exciting. I didn't know you were on Regis and Kelly.
Yes, it was very exciting. I sat on the panel with Kelly, and actually, Regis was out for the day, sick. So Andy Richter was the co-host that day. So it was really exciting. And Meg Cabot was the author that they were featuring. And I was the guest panelist that was talking about the book. And we talked about, what we thought about the book and critiqued it and, got to ask her questions about her literary process about writing the book. So it was a lot of fun.
Did you always want to be a writer? If not, what changed?
So I had no intentions of ever becoming a writer. Writing wasn't my passion at all. I went to school to become a French teacher, and I taught French for 3 years in Cincinnati, and then 3 more in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I had our first son in 1996, and we wound up moving up here to Baltimore. That's where I'm located now. And I became a stay-at-home mom and enjoyed the time I had with the kids. I did go back to teaching briefly, but life throws you a curve sometimes, and mine came in the form of a hip replacement. I have juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. I was diagnosed as a child at the age of 8. I'm actually a spokesperson for the Arthritis Foundation. And so I had to have a little career change because I couldn't be standing on my feet anymore. So I decided change plans, change lanes. And that's how the whole Kelly Ripa came up into being. And from there, after I was on Regis and Kelly, I learned that, not authors aren't very different than who we are. They're just somebody who has an idea and they have the drive, the ambition to sit down and put it to paper. So I decided that I was going to become an author and start writing books. And the first one took me a year to write, and it took me 4 years to sell it. So when they say, don't give up just because one person doesn't like your book, that's true. I have a whole stack of rejection letters, but I finally sold my first book, and it's been a great experience. So I have 3 of them now published in the series. I was not with Cozy Cat Press for the first. I was with a different publisher. And then for my second publication, the second book in the series was Country Clubbed. And the first one was Par for the Course. The second one is Country Clubbed. That's when I came over to Cozy Cat Press, and I've been so happy here. I love this publishing house. I love all the authors in it. It's a very supportive group of writers, and I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Where do you find inspiration?
My inspiration pretty much is from my everyday life. For example, my favorite piece of work that I have written is Murder by the Minutes. That is my 3rd book in the Piper O'Donnell Socialite Mystery Series. And it was actually based on my experience as a member and then past president of our local library board of trustees. So I like to use things that happen in my everyday life and expand upon them and make it into a murder mystery. So it's fun being able to create a fictional world where I'm in control of everything in this world, and it can happen as however I see fit. And it's a lot of fun being creative and using those creative juices to come up with a story that people want to read.
What were some of your favorite books as a child? And can you tell me why they were your favorite?
I loved Nancy Drew. I would go to the library and take out as many as I could on my card. And especially in the summertime, I grew up on the Jersey Shore, and we'd go to the library and get our books. And then we'd go to the beach for the day with my mom, my dad. So it was Nancy Drew, big time fan. I loved the Little House on the Prairie series. I absolutely loved that. I have them still. I collected those. Little House on the Prairie was always a big favorite as well. And then my all-time favorite book is Little Women. That is it's a classic, Louisa May Alcott, and I just love that book.
How many years have you been writing as an author and columnist?
Um, so let's see, my first book was published in 2010, so that gives you an idea. So 11 years I've been writing books. Before that, I believe I started writing my column back in 2006. So, and I've worked for Fresh Fiction. I also worked for momtrends.com for a while. Um, and my column has also appeared on library websites around the country. My column's called Jen's Jewels, if you want to Google it. And right now, like I said, it appears on freshfiction.com. Every 2 weeks, I come out with a new column on Friday. So it's exciting to feature New York Times bestselling authors as well as up and coming authors too. It's nice to find that debut author, and it's nice to be able to highlight them and give them the spotlight that they deserve. So it's really exciting part. So I get to see it through two lenses. I get to see the publishing world as an author and also as a columnist. And also, I am a book blogger. My Instagram is at Jen Vido, JenVido. And every day I post on there, whether it's in my story or it's on a post about books that I'm reading or books that I like or books that are coming out that I think they're worth your attention.
Since you're on both sides of a book, being the reviewer and the writer, do you have any advice for new writers or authors?
Yes. First of all, write every day, whether you write for 5 minutes or 2 hours, whatever you can get in. If you write every day, then you're consistently visiting the manuscript and you're familiar with it. If you put it down and then come back to it, it's not as fresh in your mind. And you can tell, a lot of times you can tell the writing when you go back to look at it, it's kind of choppy because you're not fresh with it. It's not in your mind. So write every day, no matter how many minutes. Um, Another piece of advice I think is read books in the genre in which you want to write, because the more familiar with the genre, the better writer that you're going to be. Not necessarily not to copy, but not to write exactly like some author writes. That's not the point. The point is just to learn what the semantics are and what the process is when you write a murder mystery. Like what chapters should the murder happen in, and how many characters you should have. Things like that are really important to learn. And so read as much as you can, and especially in that genre. Also, I think you should be active on social media because you want to build up a base of followers. Whether they know that you're a writer yet or not, you like to make a presence on the internet. That's very important. And above all, I think is love what you do. You can tell when somebody writes something with passion because they believe in the words that they put on the paper. If you don't believe in it, don't write it. They always say, write what you know. And I truly believe that. Write what you know.
Writing every day can be daunting and can often lead to writer's block. How do you deal with writer's block? Do you have any tips or advice?
If I'm having a hard time coming up with what I want the next scene to happen, I'll go back and edit what I wrote the day before. So at least I'm fresh within the manuscript. And usually I find that if I go back and start editing a little bit, I kind of get in the rhythm and know, all right, this is where I wanted to go, and this is where I need to go. A lot of people say, are you a plotter or a pantser? Do you plot your story or do you fly off the seat of your pants? I do a little bit of both. I find that my books are stronger if I have a loose outline, so I know kind of where I want to go. But as I always say, I never know who the murderer is until towards the like 3/4 way of the book's done. And then I'm like, oh, yes, that has got to be the murderer. And I feel like that kind of helps in the writing because as you read along, like you're like, I don't know who it is. Well, guess what? I didn't know either until I figured it out. So I kind of like to write like that, whether it's right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. It's whatever works for you as a writer. But I do think it's important to visit that manuscript every day. And you can find 5 minutes in your day, just 5 minutes is all you need just to make sure that you're keeping it fresh. And the other thing is, if you have a passion for it, you will make time for it. And it's helpful. And I think that's what I enjoy about writing my Jen's Jewels author interview column on Fresh Fiction is that I'm able to visit with authors that first I normally wouldn't cross paths with, but also to get their insight as to how do they write and what makes them tick and how did they launch their career and how did they decide what genre they write. Some people write mysteries, some people write romances, and it's kind of interesting to find out why they choose which genre and if they stick to that genre. Some authors write in more than one genre and they have pen names, so it's kind of fun to delve into that. And I always find out the more you learn from others, the better you are yourself. So just take all the information in that you can gather, and then you'll figure out your path and your journey, whatever it is. And getting there is half the fun.
Do you have any final thoughts for the audience or perhaps a shameless plug that you would like to share?
Sure. So like I said, you can find me on Instagram at Jen Vido. You can also find me on Twitter at Jennifer Vido, Jennifer Vido. I'm on Twitter quite a bit. I do love a good Hallmark movie. So you can find me pretty much on Saturday nights tweeting along with Hallmark. I'm a big fan of Hallmark movies. And you can go to my website. My website is jennifervido.com. On there each month, I have 5 book picks that I think are books that people might like to read. It also has my books on there that you can take a peek at, the Piper O'Donnell Socialite Mystery Series, and a little bit of information about me and my journey and what I'm working on now. And I also do have some book reviews on there as well. I'm either reading a book, writing a book, or reviewing a book. That's pretty much my story.
That sounds like the perfect life. Just out of curiosity, how many books a year do you read?
So I read approximately 40 books a year, which is not a lot. Some people read a lot more. I don't have time to read more than that. I read every night before bed. I do listen to audiobooks as well. I usually have one audiobook going and I'm reading one book at the same time. So the way a lot of people say, how can you do that? You can have 2 books going at the same time. It's like watching 2 TV shows. You can keep them straight. So no, most people think I probably read hundreds of books, and some people do. I'm not a fast reader, and I like to savor my books, and so I read about 40 books a year on average. Some years more, some years less. Just depends on what's going on in life.
Yeah, that's still a lot of books. I feel like people equate the quantity with, how much you love reading, but it's really just like it's not a competition.
Right. So I average about 3 books a month.
Thank you so much for joining me in the conversation, Jen. It was a pleasure getting to know you.
It was a pleasure speaking with you as well. I very appreciate the opportunity to talk about my writing and my journey to publication. And it's been nice getting to revisit it. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Make sure you check out Jen's social media on Twitter and Facebook, and make sure you like and subscribe to Cozy Cat Press's social media as well.